Do you need to let go of the story in your mind? Let's talk. Hey friend, welcome to another Mind Right Monday. I'm your host, Bonnie Kelly, your Mind Food Master, here to help get you out of your way and on with your life. So today we're talking about how you can let go of the story in your mind. Now, everybody tells stories. Whether we know we're a storyteller or not, that's what's always going on. The mind wants to fill in the, did you say blank? It's because the mind wants to conclude and understand the reality that we're living in. And so it puts together a timeline of stories. And that's just how we are interpreting our reality. No biggie, right? Unless the story in your mind is abusing you in some way. Now, every one of us has a story we tell about ourselves, the world, or the people in it that is limiting, hindering, or holding us back in some way. And that is the story we're here to talk about today. So I'm going to share with you 3 tips on how you can begin to let go of that story in your mind that is limiting or holding you back in some way. So before you dive into this, I want you maybe to pause the video right here and think about, what story do you tell yourself that is really limiting or hindering yourself? Maybe it's victimizing yourself, or maybe it's just having you feel sorry for yourself, or angry or frustrated. And you know that it's just keeping you stuck in this resentment or this anger towards yourself or somebody else. What is that story? Pause here and write it out. And then let's dive into the first tip, which is recognize that we all make up our own reality. Let's face it, we all make up stories in our mind. There might be other people who are the characters that play a role in that story, but ultimately, you are the master storyteller. The story that you hold on to is yours, and it's for you to own. Now, yes, those things might have happened, but is the way you're telling that story, does it lift you up? Does it empower you? Or is it breaking you down or keeping you back in some manner? Maybe it's keeping you from making those calls that you know you need to do in your business. Or maybe it's keeping you from going out there and asking that girl out. Or maybe it's keeping you from feeling confident enough to go star in that play. Whatever it is, the way that you're telling that story might not be serving you. And that's what we need to shift, especially since you are the one creating that story. You're the master storyteller. Now, I know it seems difficult, especially when it's like, no, Bonnie, look, this is what happened. These people did these things, and I'm angry with them for that. You're absolutely right. And you have every right to be upset about that. Or you're like, no, these things happen that have caused me to be, victimized, that has caused me to be limited in my life. It's their fault. Yes, you're right. And holding on to that story, is it serving you or is it disempowering you? So you can be right and still be wrong. What I mean by that is that you could be right in that these are the facts. But the part that might be wrong is how you're holding on to it that is hindering or limiting your life. So this is where we want to retell a new story. This is where we want to start to ask ourselves, what is a better way I can think about this? What is a better way I can feel about this and interpret this scenario? You can tell it any way you want. Here's a good example. Let's say that you got into a car accident, but nobody was really hurt, seriously injured. You could either be mad at that accident, especially if you didn't cause it. You could be super pissed off that now you have to go through all of this, this inconvenience of getting your car fixed and getting all of these things, changed and calling the insurance and being without a vehicle. Or you could tell the story in a way that says, you know what, I am so blessed that accident didn't take anybody's lives. I'm really grateful that the universe has got my back. I know all of these things will get taken care of, but I'm really thankful for this one thing. We're telling the same story. You got in an accident. But it's how you're relating to that story and where are you investing your energy within that story is what makes up the difference. So Wayne Dyer said it best when he said, be miserable or motivate yourself. Whatever has to be done, it's always your choice. It's your choice to think, feel, act, and tell any story that you desire. Why not tell a better story? Since you're making it up and you're the one that gets to be the one that allows it to play in your heart and your mind, why not make up one that feels better to you? All right, this leads me to my next tip, which is separate your story from your identity. Okay, so this is a huge one with letting go of the story in the mind, is that we need to begin to separate our stories from our identity. I'm telling you, this one is one of the hardest and absolute most essential things that you need to do in your personal development journey, is that the stories that we tell about the hardships that we've had in our past and the pains that we've had in maybe relationships or with our food or with our finances really kind of boils down and becomes part of our identity. Right? If you've been inconsistent with money, where you have just been paycheck to paycheck, you never seem to be able to get ahead, you only just ever have enough, or you're constantly struggling, right? That could easily be translated into an identity that says, I suck with money, or or only the rich get richer is the way you can project it outwards. But a lot of times inwardly it says, that I'm just not good with money, or I'm just not going to be a very abundant. And so this experience becomes part of your identity. Or when it comes into relationships, maybe you have been hurt after hurt after hurt in relationships, where you've just been in relationships where they take advantage of you, they abuse you, they betray you in some way. And so what happens is that story of those repeated experiences all of a sudden can attach ourselves to our identity, and we can become unwilling to be vulnerable. We can also become very rigid in just saying that I don't want to be loved, or I don't like being in love, or I prefer to be single. So where we can start to have the I statements. I always say that if you have an I statement followed by something negative, that you have an identity crisis, okay? That I followed by something negative is an identity crisis. So we have to start to separate the story, that all of these past experiences are what define who you authentically are. Now, they have contributed to you, right? They've contributed to the molding of who you are and helped shape you into the person that you are today, which is fantastic, unless it shaped you into a shape that doesn't serve you. And that's true for all of us. So it might only be very exclusive to your fitness and nutrition, or it might be very exclusive to your finances or to your relationships or to your business and career, that maybe the other shape of you is wonderful. But in this area, it's kind of just not the shape you want it to be. Well, that means we need to reshape the stories. We need to reshape how the stories are attached to our identity and start to separate the two of them. And so we can begin to mold it into something different. Now, again, how you tell the story is your choice. How you choose to allow your experiences to define you is also your choice. I can either choose to look at all my failed relationships as equaling as me being not good enough, or I can look at all my past relationships and I can begin to say, how have they helped me become a better person? And what can I learn from them? And now all of a sudden I can realize that I'm extremely resilient and I'm very resourceful. And in fact, I don't stay in relationships that don't serve me. And so as a result, I'm also self-confident. So instead of seeing that as a negative, I can begin to shape it and mold it into a different one. I can begin to see maybe where I need to soften in that particular area, where I need to shave off the hard edges of my personality so I can experience something different. And I can begin investing in the right tools and solutions and coaches to learn how to begin to be better in that as well. So let me end this section off with a really cool quote, which is, "A identity would seem to be arrived at by the way in which the person faces and uses his experiences." James Baldwin. I love this because it says how a person chooses to use their experiences. You can use the experiences that you've had in your past to mold you into a rigid and hard piece of clay, or you can use it to mold you into a soft and strong and resilient piece of clay. But ultimately, you're the clay worker. You're the one that gets to decide how you want this to look and feel. But if you haven't taken the time to examine that, you're going to be doomed to be victim to whatever the mind has decided to make up for you. So make sure to take the time to evaluate that. All right, this leads me to my third and final section, which is let go. All right, obviously the last thing we need to do is we need to let go of the old identity and the old story. One of my favorite ways to do this is to begin to separate what I call old self from new self. So the new self is kind of a clean surface. You get to choose any ingredients you want to use into the shaping and molding of this new version of you. Old self is tarnished, and it's already been molded and sculpted by our past experiences, our hurts, our wounds, and our insecurities, fears, and doubts. Okay, so this old self is there. So what we want to begin to do is that we want to begin to let go of this old identity. We want to start to separate that this is what it is and this is who I'm doomed to be, and recognize that you always have a choice. Now, it takes time and it takes practice to really form and to master the new you. Just like, Michelangelo building, his sculptures. It took time to chisel away all of the pieces that he didn't need to create those masterpieces. So imagine that that's what it's going to be like now that you're consciously choosing to develop this new version of you. Now that you've consciously choose to say, I'm going to be the creator of my identity. No longer am I going to allow the creation of what has been to drive my decisions. I will create my own. And so as a result, we need to look at what pieces from the old self do we want to kind of pull over with us and consciously use some of that material in the creation of the new self. And then what pieces we want to let go of. Okay? We need to be able to just say, these materials aren't usable anymore. These materials aren't something that serves us anymore. Maybe they served you for a time being. Maybe they served you for a season in your life. But they don't need to continue to serve you unless you feel that they need to. So we want to begin to start separating this. And this means that through your thoughts and your feelings, as well as the behaviors that you have, is to really begin to examine and step back for a moment and say, is this old self or is this new self making this decision? Is this old self thinking or is this new self thinking? Is this feeling I'm having, is this an old reaction or is this the conscious reaction I want to have? And when we can begin to step back for just a moment and begin to start to separate these two versions of ourselves, and then we can say, nope, that's old self. I'm choosing, there's the word, I consciously choose to think this. I consciously choose to feel this instead. I consciously choose to behave this way. And when we can begin to start to do that, you mold and shape, and with enough time and resources and enough energy, you're going to create and sculpt the best version of you imaginable. So hopefully this video has helped in some way, and I hope you decide to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are here for you every week with a new personal development tip, tool, or resource to help you be the best version of you. So don't miss out and subscribe. And if you're ready to take your personal development journey to the next level, then you can check out my 21dayemotionaldetox.com/free program where you can get 7 days right now to 10 minutes or less to get out of your way and get on with your life. Declutter the mind. You need it. Who doesn't? 10 minutes or less, no credit card required. My gift to you for being awesome. And until next time, I'm Bonnie Kelly. Did you enjoy this week's video? I hope so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's how you will never miss a beat. If you are ready to take your personal development journey to the next level, let's have a conversation. There is no better way than for you and me to be able to get on the phone together and to really start to examine where you might be holding yourself back or limiting you and what stories that you need to reshape and mold. Sometimes we need outside assistance. Sometimes we need guidance and help and support to help us make those decisions and to separate that toxicity. That's human nature. You only know what you know, and sometimes we need other people's knowing to help us get out of the way. So if you're ready to start making that journey, then email us at getinspired@bonniekelly.me. Again, that's getinspired@bonniekelly.me. You can always check out all of the upcoming events, programs, online courses, classes that we have available for you at bonniekelly.me. Until next time, mwah!